Today is going to be a weird day. Today is what I've been calling all week to my kids the Song of Songs double feature. And by that I mean, it's like we've been doing Song of Songs on Sunday evenings in July. And it's been really a delight. I've enjoyed it. If you've been here, I hope that's been a delight and encouragement to you as well. However, to finish the series, I wanted to finish it by August 3rd. The only way I'm going to finish it is if I preach the last two sermons today. So that means one this morning and then the last one tonight. So if you haven't been with us in July on Sunday evening, I'll do my best to catch you up. But Song of Songs, that is literally where we're at. And I'm going to preach the very text that Peter just read. And so that sounds impossible. It kind of is. But I think it'll be an encouragement to you. But what I wanted to begin by saying is pretty much, and I don't know if you've thought about this before, but pretty much every single thing at an American wedding ceremony is optional and negotiable. It's optional and negotiable. What I mean is there's all sorts of things we sort of feel like you actually have to have at a wedding to feel like it's an official wedding, but they're not actually required by the Bible. Do you know what I mean? There's so many things we think we have to have, but the Bible doesn't actually tell us to do any of those things, like flowers and cake and punch and bridesmaids and groomsmen and ring bearers and flower girls and even the rings themselves. Not one of those things is commanded or expected anywhere, even modeled in the Bible, anywhere. They're not there. You don't actually have to have them at a wedding. It's fine if you want them, but they're not actually required to get you married. And then, while I'm at it, can I just say this? The bouquet toss, that's kind of weird. And then, man, the weird garter off the leg thing, and then you shoot it to a crowd of salivating men. Can we be done with that, please? That's just so bizarre. That does not make you officially married in the eyes of God. However, let me just ask you not to raise your hand and participate, but just to think about it. What would you say then are the things at a wedding that make someone truly married in the eyes of God? Just think about it. What would you say that is? Because, believe it or not, it's not the pastor. It's not the venue. There's nothing special about a church building, nothing magical about a building that makes someone marriage. And I would even argue it is not even ultimately the laws of the state that make someone married in the eyes of God. You know what I think it is? I think it's the vows. It's the vows to one another. Think about it. What are vows but promises? Binding, non-negotiable commitments that you are making to one another before the God of the universe, before a crowd of witnesses. And like I say, at every wedding sermon I have ever preached, once you make those vows, you cannot unmake those vows. And why would you even want to? And I guess that's my long-winded, roundabout way of saying this. Listen carefully. Physical, intimate union of a man and woman is a mysterious gift of God that you have every right to enjoy in the context of a marriage. A marriage that is sealed and confirmed by sacred vows that you belong to one another as long as you both shall live. And get this, that sacred, intimate moment known by us as the wedding night is exactly what we see in our text this morning. In other words, yes, marital intimacy. We're going to talk about that from the Bible. You didn't know this morning that when you woke up to come to church that this is what we're going to talk about. It is what we're going to talk about. Tastefully done, God glorifying, but nevertheless, this is where we're going. Again, Sunday evenings in July, we've been going through the Song of Songs, and I've really enjoyed this. The thing about this book, and you know this, is that it's a book avoided by many, unknown by most, misinterpreted, mishandled for literally hundreds of years. And anyone who reads the Song of Songs, you know this book is really unique, isn't it? In fact, this is different from every other book in the Bible. In fact, it is different from every other book ever written in the history of the world. Think about it. That is no exaggeration. Name one other book of lyrical love poetry, who dares to say what is only appropriate between lovers joining together in a union of marriage, and a book, no less, that is inspired by God. Name one book like that. There is not any other. It is this one right here. And the title of the series we've been going with is The Flame of Yahweh. The Flame of Yahweh. That actually comes from chapter 8, verse 6. You don't have to turn there, but listen to what it says. That title, Flame of Yahweh, that's actually Solomon's definition of love. Here's what he says. This is profound. He says, love is as strong as death. Its passion is severe as the grave. Its flames are the very flames of fire, the very flame of Yahweh. And there it is. The flame of Yahweh. That's Solomon's definition of love. Yahweh, you know, is God's name. So the very least that means, listen carefully, is that intimate, romantic, passionate love in marriage, as well as its intimate physical expression, is a gift from God himself. He made it up. It is from him as its source. And yet you could hear in that text, there's a warning on the box, isn't there? He says that love has flames like fire, which means love has a dangerous power. It's as strong as death. It's severe as the grave, which means, don't miss this, if you abuse it or misuse it or give it to the wrong person, or if you give it away prematurely, it even has the power to destroy you. And you've seen it, and some of you who have even lived that. You see, there is but one context on the planet in which physical love is sanctioned by God and pleasing to God and blessed by God, and it is alone in the context of a marriage. And yet, here's the thing about marriage that we absolutely cannot forget. There is more to marriage than meets the eye, right? It's not just about two compatible people who share a bed and a bank account. No, this is a flesh and blood union between man and woman that displays the very drama of redemption unfolding in history, isn't it? The whole marriage paradigm, the whole thing is a parable that displays the drama of redemption unfolding in history, which means the stakes of marriage are so incredibly high, which also means, by extension, the stakes of marital intimacy and dating and vows are so incredibly high. This is a living, breathing, flesh and blood reenactment of the plan of God himself. And so that's where we're going this morning. So here we go. If you have those little half sheets in your bulletins, you can follow along. This morning, I want you to see 7 implications. 7 implications of the physical union of marriage. In other words, I'm just going to say it, of sex. 7 implications of the physical union of marriage that will help you preserve it and protect it for the treasure that it is. This is totally appropriate to talk about. This is totally fitting subject for a sermon, right? If we can't talk about this here, where can we talk about it? So, that is where we're going. And yet, let me just say this, those of you who are kind of new to the Song of Songs series. The Song of Songs isn't just one song. It is actually multiple songs, 13 to be exact, all kind of woven together in a romantic playlist of love. And everything that you're about to see this morning comes from tracks 7 and 8. There's 13 tracks. Everything here comes from tracks 7 and 8. So let's begin first with track 7, which I call The Marriage Consummated. The marriage consummated, an echo of Eden. An echo of Eden. Let's do some review here. Track 1, all the way at the beginning, there is a girl who is engaged who longs to be married. There's the context of the book. I'm going to lead you up to where we're going here. His love is better than wine, she says. His name is like fine oil. He's a godly man that everybody loves. Track 2, it seems, goes back in time to before she met the man of her dreams. There's tension in the family. She's got these overbearing brothers. In order to protect her purity, make her work in the vineyard alone. Track 3, the woman waits, still hasn't met the man of her dreams yet, not knowing if or when she's ever going to be married, is encouraged by this all-female chorus called the Daughters of Jerusalem to trust the Lord and wait for his timing. Track 4, which is Now They Have Met, They Are in Love. It's actually a song of mutual love. The man and woman sing back and forth, praising one another's affections. Track 5 is the proposal. Track 6 is the wedding day, the ceremony, and the vows. And here in track 7, we get to the very gravitational center of the entire book. It's a culminating point right in the middle. And here's the thing about Song of Songs, which is so fascinating, that in the Hebrew, the Song of Songs is exactly 400 lines. 400 lines to the dot. And get this. At exactly line 200, at the exact numerical center of the book, is a wedding. And not just a wedding, but a wedding portrayed with all the language of the Garden of Eden. And not just the wedding, but even the wedding night itself. That's where we're going. And so everything you're about to see here is a poetic depiction of the physical union between a husband and his wife on the night of their wedding. Starting in verse 12, look at the text. This is so fascinating. This is the man speaking about his wife. He says, "A locked garden is my sister, my bride. A rock garden locked, a sealed up spring. Your shoots," or that could even be rendered your skin, but your shoots are an orchard of pomegranates with the choicest of fruits. Henna blossoms with nard and saffron, sweet cane and cinnamon with all of the trees of incense, myrrh and aloes with all of the finest of spices, a spring of gardens, a well of living waters, even flowing from Lebanon. And here it is, line 200, verse 16, she invites her husband. "Awake, O north wind, and come, O wind of the south. Make my garden breathe out its fragrance. Let them flow with spices. Let my beloved come to his garden, and let him eat the choicest of fruits." And then chapter 5, verse 1, he accepts her invitation. "I have come to my garden, my sister, my bride. I have plucked my myrrh with my balsam. I have eaten my honeycomb with my honey. I have drunk my wine with my milk." And there it is, right there. Romantic, physical love portrayed in the Bible. That wasn't so bad, was it? That wasn't so bad. And honestly, it was actually kind of breathtaking. It was incredible because you look and you read that text and it just sounds like Eden. It just looks like Eden. It even smells and tastes like Eden. And that's very purposeful. That's very deliberate. And I really believe that text right there will help us rightly understand how sexuality fits within the plan of God and the Great Commission itself. Because get this is so important to think about weddings and marriage theologically, but a wedding in paradise has occurred in exactly 2 places in the Bible. Do you know where it is? Where in the Bible does a wedding occur in paradise? Genesis chapter 2 with Adam and Eve. Revelation 21 between God and his people. Do you see? Marriage at the beginning of history. The last marriage at the beginning of eternity. That's incredible. The implication is, listen carefully, is that passionate, romantic love between a man and woman in marriage is both a picture of Eden and a preview of eternity. That's what I mean when I say the stakes are so high. It's a picture of paradise at both ends of human history, both at times in which there was no sin. Do you see? And we'll get to the significance of that. But notice again how the man describes his bride, verses 12 through 15. Again, remember, verse 8 is the proposal. Verse 9 is the ceremony. Verse 11 was the kiss that seals the deal. Here, verse 12 is the sacred consummation. Look again. He says, "A locked garden is my sister, my bride. A rock garden locked, a sealed up spring. Your shoots are like an orchard of pomegranates with the choicest of fruits, henna blossoms with nard and saffron, sweet cane and cinnamon with all the trees of incense, myrrh, aloes with all the finest of spices. I want you to notice carefully there in verse 12. The husband's wife is not in a garden. She is the garden. Do you see? She's not swimming in a pool. She is the pool. She's not basking in a fountain. She actually is the fountain herself. And you notice also, how is the garden described? The garden is locked. The spring is sealed up. The way is shut. What does that mean? It means very simply, this is a pure woman. This is a holy woman. She has always guarded her purity. She has never given herself away to anyone. The way is shut. The garden is locked to all except the man who is to be her husband. Do you see? The implication is the gift and delight of intimate love, sex, in other words, is absolutely sacred. It's sacred. Until or unless you get married, the way is shut and the garden is locked. Why? Why do we care about this? Is it because you don't want to have kids out of wedlock? Is it because you are so worth it to wait and save yourself for marriage? Is that it? My first ministry gig out of seminary was as an associate pastor in Tacoma. And this church had a little library. And in the library was this hilarious and really tragic book from the 50s called The Terrible Teen Trap. I stole the book. I kept it. Actually, they were giving it away and I just took it. The Terrible Teen Trap. And the whole book is this sort of like comic way of describing that the reason why you shouldn't have sex before marriage is because if you could get pregnant and then have a kid out of wedlock. That was the basis, that was the rationale of the entire book. Nothing about the glory of Christ, nothing about the parable of Christ and the church, nothing about the holiness of God. Everything, the only thing was about, well, you don't want to have kids out of wedlock. That's the terrible teen trap. Or, years ago, I lived with a bunch of guys, and one of the guys put up this huge poster in our kitchen. And it was sort of like this pro-abstinence, anti-sex before marriage poster. And the entire rationale for why you should save yourself for marriage, here it was in this big, bold, white letters, was because you are worth it. You are worth it. Really? Is that why? Is that the ultimate reason that drives holiness? Just don't have kids out of wedlock and because you're so worth it? That's not it. That's not it. The reason why we care about this issue, beloved, has everything to do with Christ and the church. The parable that marriage is designed to display. In verse 13, it's not just the wedding, it is the wedding night. And I love that language. Look at the imagery. Again, this is Hebrew poetry. It just works at a different level. It operates it engages us at the sensory level. An orchard of pomegranates, the choicest of fruits, henna blossoms, nard, saffron, sweet cane, cinnamon, all the trees of incense, myrrh, aloes, and the finest of perfumes. What is even the point of all that? The point is romantic love and affection in marriage, wait for it, is a sample of paradise itself. That's the point. It just smells and tastes and looks like Eden. In fact, the word orchard there is literally the Hebrew word pardes. Pardes. What does that sound like? Paradise. Do it. Do it. Ask 10 random people today, I dare you, how they think the Bible describes sexual intimacy, and I guarantee no one is thinking about this. But verse 15, what does he call her? But a spring of gardens, a well of living waters, even flowing from Lebanon. And again, that's the language for his bride, his wife. She is the spring of living water. She is the fountain flowing from Lebanon. As opposed to what? As opposed to what? Oh, I don't know. A puddle? A pond? A marsh? A lake? Do you see the issue here? Her love is never stale or stagnant. It flows with affection, with a hint of the Garden of Eden itself. But then there it is, verse 16 and chapter 5, verse 1. Line 200, line 201, at the exact center of the book is a beautiful depiction of the wedding night itself. Verse 16, she invites him to the garden to eat the choicest of fruits. Chapter 5, verse 1, he gladly accepts the invitation. This is the consummation of a marriage. Here it is. And the thing is, there's no shame here. There's nothing dirty about this. It's exactly the opposite. And if you can look without embarrassment, look what the chorus sings to the couple at the end of verse 1. Literally it says, eat, friends, and drink, and be drunk with love. That's what the Hebrew says. And the word love there, the Hebrew word dodim, it literally means love makings. I didn't write it. I didn't make the pizza. I'm just serving it up. And again, what I love about that at the end of verse 1 is that these are commands, even exuberant commands to consummate a marriage. Question, do you see the theology behind that? There is theology behind that. The theology is the celebration of physical love in marriage is exactly how God himself feels about physical love in marriage. That's the theology. It's incredible, because that was, after all, his idea in the first place, wasn't it? And the point is this, the wedding night portrayed as if feasting in a garden very simply means that marriage, or should I say, godly marriage, is a tiny little glimpse of paradise itself, and that includes even the physical expression of love between a man and woman in marriage. That doesn't mean that marriage is always easy. It is not. That doesn't mean that there aren't challenges when it comes to things like intimacy. There are. The point is, God loves this. God made this. The sacred act of intimate love is so much bigger than the two people who get to enjoy it. No, even that in marriage is a picture of Eden. Even that in marriage is a preview of the New Jerusalem. Do you see? Bottom line, we need to think about sex in a much more theological way. God could have made us any way he wanted. He could have made us asexual beings that hatch eggs in a cave somewhere, like starfish or sea turtles or something, but he made us like this. Conscientious, passionate beings whose most private, intimate act is both a picture of the past and a foretaste of the future. I see you uncomfortable out there. I see that. Track 8. Track 8. I call it Marriage Celebrated, the exhilaration of the wife, the exhilaration of the wife. This made me think about this week. Have you ever considered the role of physical attraction in relationships? Like what do we do with that? What do we do with physical attraction in dating and marriage? Like, should that be a thing? Like, is that okay? Because I think we'd all agree that, okay, cheesy though it sounds, it's what's on the inside that counts, right? It's the character of a person. It's Christ in a person that makes them truly beautiful. We agree with that. But the question is, what do we do with physical attraction? Should we care about that? Should that be a factor? Is that wrong? Should we not care about that? And the real question is there a Bible verse for that? Is there any biblical justification for things like attraction and desirability? And the answer is absolutely there is. Absolutely. And where it's found is Song of Songs, chapters 5 and 6. Where the newly married couple, they lavish one another with gushing adoration. But get this, the only things they talk about are the physical things in one another that they find attractive. I think that's biblical justification for attraction and desirability. So look at chapter 5, verse 9. The chorus sings to the woman. And they say, this is the chorus singing to her, what is your beloved? What is your beloved that makes him more than a beloved, is their question. Oh, beautiful one among women. What is your beloved that makes him more than a beloved that you make us swear? Now, do you see the nature of the question? It's more of a challenge. In the previous verse, the woman said to the chorus, if you see my husband, tell him that I am lovesick for him. To which they reply, well, what makes him so special? What is it about him that makes him different and unique from everybody else? And in reply, she gives 13 reasons why she is exhilarated with him, and every single one of them has to do with his appearance and what she finds attractive. So, let's take a look. Number 1. Verse 10, here we go. She says that her beloved is dazzling. She calls him dazzling. Now, wait a second. Why haven't you ever called me dazzling? I'm dazzling. Like a sunset on the ocean. He's a good-looking man, pleasing to the eyes. See? Number 2, verse 10, she literally calls him red or ruddy. In other words, he's got a tan. He's browned to perfection. He's tall, dark, and he's handsome. Number 3, verse 10, she calls him outstanding, above 10,000, meaning he's more attractive than anyone else she has seen. There could be 10,000 men for her to choose from, and she would only choose him. He is the one she wants. Numbers 4 and 5, verse 11, describe his head and his hair. His head is like gold. His hair is black like the raven. And you see the striking, beautiful contrast there. To have a head like gold is to have a work of art shaped by an artist, priceless in value. His hair, like clusters of dates, black like the raven, thick, wavy hair. The envy of every man, cursed with male pattern baldness. Not that I'm bitter. Come on now. Number six, verse 12, describe his eyes, and this is really weird. She says his eyes are like doves on channels of water bathing in milk. If you have seen that, send me a picture of that. And that sounds really bizarre, right? But it simply means that his eyes are gentle and handsome. His eyes say 1,000 words. She knows just by the way that he looks at her that he will be faithful to her till death do they part. Number 7 and 8, verse 13, describe his cheeks and his lips. And of course, you notice that she's moving down, praising him from head to toe. His cheeks, she says, are like beds of balsam and banks of aromatic herbs, which is a weird compliment, unless, of course, balsam and herbs were used in that day to make cologne, which they were. So he not only looks good, he smells good too. And then his lips. His lips are like lilies dripping with liquid myrrh. I mean, what a picture. His mouth is appealing to the eyes. It's soft to the touch. It drips with liquid myrrh, which means even his breath is appealing to the smell. Men, I'm just saying, a little chapstick and breath mints will do you wonders. You do that, and your lips will be like lilies dripping with liquid myrrh. Maybe you don't want that. Numbers 9 and 10, verse 14. Describes his arms and his abs, his arms like rods of gold filled with precious jewels, which could refer to their size or their color, but rather I think it refers more to their function. Right? These are priceless agents of affection that make her feel protected with his love. Because it's not the size of the arms that make a man, but the love those arms express. And then the man's abs of ivory, firm and flat, reveal a man who's active, self-controlled, works hard, stays in shape. I mean, did you see what's happening here? She likes his body. She likes the way he looks. It's just here in the text. And it's okay. And it's not even just okay, it is commended in Holy Scripture. Number 11, verse 15, describes his legs like pillars. That's interesting, right? Castles have pillars. Great marble halls of kings have pillars. Palaces have pillars. What's the point? The point is, even the way he walks and stands, he looks noble and dignified. Number 12, she zooms out, describes his appearance like Lebanon, choice like the cedars, which sounds really weird unless you're from Washington State, where we actually have mountains with trees on them. And that's what she says he's like. I mean, Lebanon in that day is mentioned 64 times in the Old Testament, and it's described as having the most breathtaking forest on the planet. And the point is, that's what it looks like to look at him. He's this breathtaking forest. Think the what's that forest in California? The redwood forest in California, or the one in Montana, Gilcher in Montana. The point is, when she looked at him, he took her breath away, and she only had eyes for him. worthy of taking a picture of. And then verse 16, she describes literally in the Hebrew his taste. He tasted good. He tasted really good. I don't think that's literal taste. I think it's that all that it is that made him who he is made marriage sweet to the soul. She says his taste is sweet and all of him is desirable. I think the point is talking with him, living a life together with him, building a life together with him, pursuing the living God together with him, made life and marriage sweet to the soul. Not just the physical things, all the things. Because notice, she says, all of him is desirable. All of him is desirable, meaning in public and in private, seen and unseen, the side of him that nobody sees but her. He is a man who is desirable. Which means no secret vices hidden in his life. No private scandals lurking in the shadows. No nasty secrets hidden behind the scenes. All of him was precious and worthy of admiration. And men, I just ask you, do you have a character like that? Do you have character like that? That's what the New Testament calls being blameless, upright, above reproach, meaning the way you live your life in secret even shows that the living God is the treasure of your soul. And I love what she says at the end of verse 16. She says, this is my beloved, and this is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. This is the answer to their question. They said, what makes him so special? That is what makes him special. And I love that. Do you see that? My beloved and my friend, lover and friend, passion and devotion, intimacy and companionship, because that right there is a marriage. And man, I'll just say, there's a powerful implication here. And I think you see it. You see, those of you who are married, those of you who want to be married, I just want you to know that we men have it very much within our power to make a marriage bitter or to make it sweet. It's not only in our control, but it is so much in our control. I don't mean in some man-centered way. I just mean, just like the superhero movies always say, with great power comes great responsibility. That's the issue. And man, I could give you a 300-page book on all the ways to make your marriage bitter or sweet, or I could give you 2 words. 2 words that would make your marriage sweet and exalting to Jesus Christ. You ready? Here they are. Holiness and selflessness. Holiness and selflessness. If you are holy and you are selfless, you will be an incredible husband. Why? Because Christ is holy and selfless, and he is the greatest husband that any church could ask for. It's incredible. And so so think about it, to be holy and selfless like Christ is holy and selfless, you have to depend on Christ. And how you depend on Christ is through the pages of his word. And so men, if you want to be holy and selfless, you need long, long meditation upon who Christ is from the pages of Scripture. That is how that happens. There is no other way. To see him is to become like him. Which brings us into track 8, part 2. I call it Marriage Consecrated, the exuberance of the husband. The exuberance of the husband. And you know what really has always struck me about the Song of Songs as I've studied it through the years, is that what we see unfolding between these 2 lovers is just so opposite of the garbage we see on Netflix and Hollywood, right? It's just so radically different. What I mean is, these lovers could look each other in the eyes. There were no games. There were no unwritten rules. There were no bizarre expectations. There's no pressure to perform. There was just a pure, honest, humble, vulnerable passion between a man and woman who are crazy for one another. And my point is, if you pursue love and marriage like the God-ignoring, sin-enslaved world like they do, if you pursue it like them, you can't look your lover in the eyes. You can't roll over the next morning, bad breath and all, and say the kinds of things that this man says to his wife, who is his best friend. And we'll see those in verses 4 through 13 in chapter 6. But look first at verses 1 through 3. I'm going to be discreet here. But bottom line, the woman describes what kind of lover her husband is. It's very interesting. Look at the text there. In the Song of Songs, the language of garden and balsam and lilies, in the context, if you read the whole thing, that can only mean one thing. That's the language of physical love. That's what that refers to. And so she's reflecting on the wedding night and what those intimate moments with him were like. And notice verses 2 and 3, how she describes her husband. My beloved came down to his garden. Doesn't that sound like the end of chapter 4? To the beds of balsam, to shepherd among the lilies, or shepherd among the gardens, and to gather lilies. And then, probably the most famous verse in the book, verse 3, I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine, the shepherd among the lilies. Now, do you see what I'm seeing? She calls him a shepherd twice. In the context of marital intimacy, that's really significant. The point is, the most private, physical moments of their marriage, he is like a shepherd. In other words, if I can be blunt, he leads even in the bedroom with gentleness and love. But then verse 4, the husband speaks. It's essentially the morning after the wedding night. Look what he says. It's magnificent. He says, you are beautiful, or how beautiful you are, my beloved, like Tirzah. Lovely like Jerusalem. Literally, fear-inspiring like an army with banners. That's incredible poetry, isn't it? Maybe you're like, I don't know, is that incredible poetry? It absolutely is incredible poetry, because notice, he calls her three things. He calls her beautiful. He calls her lovely. He calls her fear-inspiring. And notice the comparisons. I love this. Beautiful like Tirzah. Lovely like Jerusalem. Fear-inspiring like an army with banners. What does that mean? What are these? Well, these are culturally powerful ways to express the beauty of a wife. If a husband called his wife beautiful like Paris and lovely like Venice, you would understand exactly what he means. And I love this here because the man picks the two most important cities in Israel, Tirzah in the north and Jerusalem in the south, the most beautiful, significant, sacred cities in the entire kingdom, the kind of cities that you don't want to just visit, you want to live there. He's saying that is what my wife is like for me. But not only that, notice he calls her fear-inspiring like an army with banners. You could picture the scene, can't you? Soldiers clothed with armor on a hill, arrayed for battle, banners and flags waving in the wind. What's the point? I think the point is her beauty is almost intimidating. She's gorgeous, she's impressive to be sure, but here's the thing, she is not a toy. She is not a plaything to be used. You don't trifle with an army ready for battle. And the point is, wives are to be prized and valued and adored. Do you hear that? That's the issue. Wives are to be prized and valued and adored. You don't take them for granted. You don't take advantage of them. You treat them with a sense of reverence. I think how easy it is to be impatient with one another in marriage. Isn't it? It's so easy. Even in the little moments, we get in these sinful habits where we interact with our spouse in these sharp, impatient ways. We call it being snippy, or touchy, or snappy, or grouchy. And I get it. Communication is hard. Being a sinner in a marriage makes it really challenging. But the more we can grow to respect and honor our wives like an army with banners, the the more patient and humble we will be. But then, look at verses 5 through 8, describes a few of her features that fill him with awe. Look what he says. He says, turn away your eyes from me, because they confuse me. Your hair is like a flock of goats which leap down from Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of lambs which come up from the washing, and all of them are bearing twins, and not one of them is missing. Your cheeks are like a pomegranate from behind your veil. There are 60 queens and 80 concubines and maidens without number. Literally, the Hebrew says, she is my only one, my dove, my perfect one. She is the only one to her mother, pure in the sight of the one who gave her birth. That is a glorious text. Do you know why? Because it's biblical justification for complimenting your wife. And yet, if you remember, it's interesting, back in chapter 4, he already said these things, didn't he? Back in chapter 4, he already said that his wife her hair was like a flock of goats. He already said her teeth were like a flock of lambs. Well, what happened here? Just repeating the same material? Did he lose his creativity, lose his inspiration? I mean, what's happening here? He's already used the material? No, the point is really profound. You see, the repetition is deliberate. It's not lack of creativity. It is depth of authenticity. Here's what I mean. In chapter 4, he said these very same things before the wedding. Here in chapter 6, he repeats the same things after the wedding. Do you see the point? The point is, his love didn't lose its steam after the wedding day. His praise and admiration for her didn't wane as time wore on, because that happens to some men, doesn't it? Men will be sweet and they'll be kind and they'll be passionate to get the girl, but then after they're married, they lose their motivation to show affection. They lose the ability to be intentional. They stop making an effort. They begin to treat their helpmate like a roommate. The bride becomes the maid. The lover becomes just another common feature around the house. And so here, what does Solomon do? He helps us see, and this is very important, he helps us see that true and lasting affection in marriage must be cultivated. That devotion in marriage must be nurtured. That intentionality in admiration is the power for lasting and intimate affection. And can I just be bold here? The private moments in the bedroom will only be sweet if they are preceded by selflessness and admiration. Does that make sense? In other words, the magic doesn't happen when you get there. It is cultivated by all the moments in the rhythm of life before you get there. Do you see? So men, you pray. You pray to be humble and holy and selfless and to praise her for her beauty. Which is exactly what he does, starting with her eyes in verse 5. I love this. He says, turn your eyes away from me because they confuse me. Your eyes are too much for me. It overwhelms me. They're overpowering to me. They make me lose my train of thought. And then your hair, verse 5, your hair is like a flock of goats which leap down from Gilead, which hardly sounds flattering, but the issue is her thick, wavy hair bounces on her shoulders with every step. And that famous verse, Mike's favorite verse in all the Bible, verse 6, your teeth are like a flock of lambs which come up from their washing. All of them are bearing twins and not one of them is missing, meaning she has all of her teeth and none of them are yellow. What a win. I mean, set your standards high. The point is she has a killer smile that delights his very soul. Then verse 7, he says that her cheeks are like pomegranates from behind her veil, which means the features of her face are beautifully shaped like exotic fruit. And one of the things I love about the Song of Songs, and I think you see this too, is that throughout the song, the couple views one another as the standard of beauty. Have you noticed that? In other words, they were faithful, they were undivided, they were fiercely loyal to the other. There was not only do not touch, there was also do not look. They weren't looking at any other person. She was his standard of beauty. He was her standard of masculine beauty, and they only had eyes for one another. Look at verses 8 and 9. He says, there are 60 queens and 80 concubines and maidens without number. But literally, she is the only one. My dove, my perfect one, she is the only one to her mother, pure in the sight of the one who gave her birth. That's incredible stuff. And notice there, queens, concubines, and maidens, the most beautiful women in the world. Notice how the number grows with each group. 60 queens, 80 concubines, maidens without number. I think the point is queens were valuable. Concubines were beautiful. Maidens were eligible. The issue is there are so many pretty women in the world. Celebrities, supermodels, movie stars, people that the world thinks is beautiful, women in a beauty pageant. And yet, if he had to choose between her and all of them, he would only always choose her. That's the issue. Why? He only had eyes for her. Verse 9. Literally, she is the only one. My dove, my perfect one, she is the only one to her mother, pure in the sight of the one who gave her birth. And maybe your version says she is unique, but literally the Hebrew word there is achat. It's one. She is the one. She is the only one for me. And I love verse 10, maybe my second favorite line in the whole book, the chorus of women, the daughters of Jerusalem, they praise the cosmic beauty of the wife. They say, and he says, the daughters have seen her, and they call her blessed. Queens and concubines, they also praised her, saying, who is this who looks down like the dawn? Beautiful like the full moon, pure like the sun, fearful like an army with banners. That's good poetry. Take notes, gentlemen. A sunrise, the moon, the sun, and an army with banners. Everybody loves a good sunrise. That's what she is to him. There's only one moon and one sun for the earth. That's what she is to him. He is, and just like the moon and the sun, he is linked to her by the gravity of grace, and like an army with banners, she is the one who has conquered and captured his affections. And that's it. Tracks 7 and 8 on the playlist of love. And what did we see? What did we see? We saw two things. Number one, we saw physical, intimate love in marriage portrayed in the language of a garden. Number two, we saw the mutual, joyful admiration of the couple praising one another for their attributes, which I think raises the question, what on earth do we do with this? What do we do with that? What's the payoff here? How are we supposed to handle this? Well, you handle this, you do with this what you do with all other scripture. You apply it. You apply it to your life. And I give you seven implications of the physical union in marriage. Number one, let's just say it. Sex is a gift from God that you have every right to enjoy, and to enjoy it to its fullest in the context of a marriage. That's it. Try to enjoy it outside of that, it will destroy you. Number two, the reason why the Song of Songs speaks about the wedding night in the language of a garden is precisely because marriage and the physical love in it is one of the last remaining glimpses of the world before sin entered into the world. Does that make sense? It's pictured in these garden terms to picture the world before sin entered in. And what that means is it is good. It is a gift. It is a picture of paradise. It is a foretaste of the future. In other words, it is a glimpse of the garden. It is an echo of Eden. And not only that, but marriage and physical intimacy is a glimpse and a picture of the new Jerusalem itself. And so, let me just say this, that makes all of this more precious and sacred than we have ever imagined. And so can I just say this here at the risk of making you feel very uncomfortable? Can we just do away with the things that pollute those sacred moments? Can we do away with that? Let's keep things like pornography out of the mix. Role-playing, bondage, any other perversion, let's keep that outside. Because the thing that makes it truly meaningful and the thing that makes it truly glorious is that it is a picture of the triune God and the love that fashioned the plan of salvation. Number 3, love within marriage includes exuberant delight in sexuality, which nowhere in the Bible regards as evil, unspiritual, or in any way inconsistent with true holiness. That's profound. And I get it. There are some dear saints with oversensitive consciences, and they can't get past the notion that physical love is dirty, like it's some sort of unfortunate curse as part of the fall. But it's not. It's not that. There's no divide between passion and purity, between romance and obedience, between sex or sanctification. Those two things are perfectly compatible in the context of a marriage. Number 4, marriage, I think it's clear, marriage is not the outlet that gives the flesh the opportunity to satisfy its cravings. Does that make sense? Marriage is not the opportunity for the flesh to satisfy its cravings. Some people think that, even in the church. You've probably heard people say that. Well, they can't have any self-control, so I guess they got to get married. Ooh, as if marriage is their chance to satisfy their urges. I think that's a really wrong way to view marriage and sexuality, not to mention a really terrible reason to join together in marriage. No, physical love in marriage is not the release of pent-up animal instincts, but the selfless expression that you love one another more than anyone else on the face of the planet. Number 5. I've said it before, it bears worth repeating. I think it's very interesting the way that movies depict love in marriage. Sort of like this force, like magic or electricity. Have you known that? There's magic here, there's electricity here. And the world buys into that. And once it feels like the magic is gone, people don't know what to do. Well, I guess I move on and find someone else, or I just learn to live in misery. But what the Song of Songs reveals, or at least I think implies, is that, get this, true love and affection in marriage is both spontaneous and it is deliberate. It is both spontaneous and deliberate. But what I mean is, these lovers clearly were crazy for one another, right? There's no question about that. There was no shortage of magic or electricity here between these two people. And yet, do you see the implication? The implication is that those moments when they describe one another's physical beauty and attributes means that they had taken time to study one another as the object of their affection. They even took a pen, as it were, and wrote poems about one another, making one another the object of their meditation. And the point is, real romantic love in a marriage must be cultivated. It must be cultivated. The magic in marriage doesn't come from nowhere. It is produced by intentional, thoughtful, sacrificial habits that die to self and do what's best for the other person. And what's best for the other person is Christ himself. Number six, you got to be careful with this, or you could take it too far and become a weirdo. But even the pleasures of physical love in their own unique way are a glimpse of the joy that we will taste in the future. Right? And I don't mean anything weird by that. I just mean there's a reason why God made this physical act temporary. It's temporary. It's not forever. Right? Marriage and physical love, and I think the point is marriage and physical love are but a foretaste of the future and a feast to come in the kingdom. Listen to Psalm 16:11. You will make known to me, speaking to God, you will make known to me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy. In your right hand there are pleasures forever. And you hear it, don't you? In God's presence, fullness of joy, pleasures forever. That is exactly the point of marriage. And physical love in marriage. The act itself points beyond itself. It is a hint, a foretaste, a sample, a preview of the kind of pure, glorious, holy worship and enjoyment with which we will enjoy the triune God forever and ever and ever. In fact, everything in marriage is a preview of the New Jerusalem. Revelation 21. I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God like a bride adorned for her husband. Do you see? And then number seven, and then you're done being tortured here. To the singles among us, I want to say a word to the singles. The question is, what if you never get married? What if what's described here in this text, what if that never happens to you? The question is, have you missed out? Have you missed out? Have you lost anything by not being married? And I think from a human point of view, people would say, well, yeah, you did miss out. But that's not the perspective of the Bible. It's not at all. I've said it before. I need to say it again. Think about it. Jesus Christ is the most fully complete human being who ever lived. And he was never married and never once went on a single date, ever. Right? And with all the grace and compassion and understanding that I can muster, let me just give you what I hope is an encouragement. If you really wanted to be married, but God had other plans for you, and you spend your whole life as a single person, the question is, do you believe that in the age to come, Christ can compensate for your sacrifice? Like if you viewed your singleness as, you know what, maybe this is what God has for me, this is a sacrifice that he wants me to make for his glory, do you believe that if you made that sacrifice, trusting him if he wanted to provide a spouse for you, you're totally open to that, but if you were to view it in that way, do you believe that Christ could compensate for your sacrifice? Do you believe that Christ will more than make up for anything you suffered or sacrificed even 10,000 times over in the age to come? Do you believe that? Because he knows exactly what it's like to be single. And weird though it sounds, but absolutely true, in the age to come, when human marriage is no more, Christ will be the spouse and the king and the treasure we have been waiting for. Let's pray. Well, Lord, we're grateful that your word leaves no stone unturned. We need perspectives like this, Lord. We are inundated all day, every day, by the world's discipleship and influence and teaching and honestly poison on all sorts of issues, and this one being among them, probably even predominant among the things that we hear from the world. And Lord, we need this. We need to be disinfected and cleansed by your word. We need our minds to be changed and altered by the glorious things that your word says about marriage and love and romance and companionship and all of the things that come with marriage. We need this. And so help us, Lord. Help us to be advocates for marriage, single or married. Help us to love marriage, single or married, not because it's about the two people getting married, Lord, but because it is that marriage is a parable of redemption. It tells a story of your love to the watching world. And so, Lord, help us. Help help us. Thank you for these precious people, this sweet flock. Thank you for your work in their lives. Obvious, it is clear, obvious, and that you are working in them, in and through your word. May you continue to encourage them, strengthen them to live lives always and only for the glory of your Son. In his name we pray. Amen.